Yes.
Shall we begin? Sir, shall we begin? Anju ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
शुरू कर दे मैम है ना फिर अगर अपन पार्टिसिपेंट्स का वेट करेंगे तो फिर डिले हो जाएगा दे विल कीप ऑन जॉइनिंग ऑन बोथ द मीडियम्स
Please, ma'am, please.
जी जी स्नेहा प्लीज बिगिन थैंक यू
Good evening and welcome. I, on behalf of the BSSS fraternity, welcome you all to this virtual platform which involves a discreet discussion of ideas. I extend a warm welcome to everyone who have joined us this evening. I would like to thank respected Principal Reverend Father Dr. John P.J. and Vice Principal Sister Dr. Soni Kurian for their encouragement and backing. I am also gratified to our guest speaker, Mr. Harshal A. Sangvi, for his initiative to address us this evening. Before we commence, I would like to introduce our audience to Dev Aharam. Dev Aharam is a philanthropic initiative by our respected principal, Reverend Father Dr. John P.J., to serve the vulnerable and spread goodness.
Dev Aharam has completed a year shortly.
And the contribution by the staff, students and well-wishers has been overwhelming. Every guest who has entered our college has become a part of this noble cause. By doing away with the custom of giving bouquets, we have made our guests a part of this social enterprise. It has generated interest amongst the student community, and their regularity is a proof in itself. It has emerged as one of the best practices of our institution's out-of-classroom learning, through which we have relentlessly aimed at providing a one-time meal for more than 250 outpatients and caretakers of AIIMS.
BSSS की यूनिक प्रैक्टिस देव आहारम एम्स में आने वाले रोगियों के परिजनों को हर सुबह आहार वितरित कर स्वयं को धन्य अनुभव करती है। तो वहीं BSSS के स्टूडेंट्स सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी सीखते हैं। प्रिंसिपल फादर डॉक्टर जॉन पीजे, जिनकी नेक सोच और नेतृत्व में कोविड-19 के दौरान लॉकडाउन के चलते देव आहारम शहर के कैंसर हॉस्पिटल, जेपी हॉस्पिटल, हमीदिया हॉस्पिटल और एम्स में आए रोगियों के परिजनों को हर दिन भोजन देकर मददगार बना। हमेशा सोशल वर्क डिपार्टमेंट के सहारे से जरूरतमंदों को ड्राई राशन किट बांटी और जरूरत की सामग्री देकर इस चैलेंजिंग सिचुएशन में सहारा बना देव आहारम। हम सभी के लिए ब्लेसिंग है देव आहारम। ऐसे में हमारे आने वाले हर अतिथि जिनके स्वागत के लिए हम बुके देते हैं, उसका कंट्रीब्यूशन भी जाता है देव आहारम में। हमारे अतिथि गण के लिए बहुत सारी ब्लेसिंग्स हैं देव आहारम के माध्यम से। सर, आपका स्वागत। और साथ ही साथ इस टेक्निकल सेशन को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं ये वापस सौंपती हूं स्नेहा को। स्नेहा, प्रोग्राम प्लीज आगे कंटिन्यू करें।
Neha, are you there?
कोविड-19 का कहर और ऐसे में पूरी दुनिया जहां अपने घरों में सिमटी हुई है, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग ने हमें इतना दूर कर दिया है कि हम अपनों से दूर अकेले में सिमट गए। लेकिन अपना इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया, सोशल मीडिया हम सबको जोड़कर एकता में मजबूती से रिश्तों को उभार रहा है। और ऐसे ही आज इस सेशन में बात करने के लिए हमारे चीफ गेस्ट हमारे साथ हैं, रिसोर्स पर्सन हमारे साथ हैं। सर, आपका स्वागत। स्नेहा, प्लीज प्रोग्राम आगे बढ़ाइए।
Thank you, Manju ma'am, for enlightening us. The Department of Humanities is one of the earliest established institutions that existed since the inception. From 1972, it conferred out an array of subjects for the students to choose as per the areas of their interest. The Department of Humanities at the BSSS College is the flagship course with which the college has aimed to create everyday leaders. It supports excellence in education through a diverse, dynamic, and personalized academic environment that emphasizes engaged learning. The report carried by the World Economic Forum in January 2020 named Jobs of Tomorrow, Mapping Opportunity in the New Economy, significantly forecasted the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, fueled by technological, demographic, and societal change. With the growth of startups in India, it seems prudent that adequate and financial legal endorsement is the burning need of the century. This became even more prudent with the introduction of the global crisis that distort the network of ideas, innovations, communication, and dissemination of latest market trends. Thus, the discreet response stands in attracting online customers, fundraising in crisis, flexibility in the workplace, pivoting strategies in combating COVID 19, and improving customer service. Precisely a next gen setup that suffices the need of incubation, resilience, and opportunities for technological startups during the ongoing pandemic. Understanding the entailment of the chain of events, the BSSS fraternity strive to spread the word through this international webinar on the occasion of National Technology Day. It's my esteemed honor to invite Mr. Harshal A. Sanghvi, who will be mediating this session on the latest from the technological industry and the scope for the startups. Mr. Sanghvi is currently pursuing his PhD in computer engineering from Florida Atlantic University, USA. He is the founder and director of Essence Tech, an edtech company based in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. He worked with Nidan Technologies Private Limited as a trainer in the field of information technology, infrastructure, management services. Adding more feather to his cap of excellence, he edited and published his book, I Do and I Understand on experiments and demo in physics and computational physics. He is currently serving as a startup expert at National Center for Innovation in Distance Learning, New Delhi. He is also an incubation manager at Shodh Incubation Center at Sir P.T. Singh College, Gujarat. He has been awarded with Sri Bharat N. Bhatt Memorial Prize for commendable social service by the management of St. Xavier College, Ahmedabad. He has also been awarded by the Indian Society for Training and Development for his valuable contribution in the specifics of entrepreneurship and development, thus clearly defining in its true meaning a man of wisdom and class. I now request respected Dr. Naina Singh, HOD Humanities, to please convey the welcome address.
Thank you, Sneha. Welcome the challenges and look for the opportunities in every situation to learn and grow in wisdom. We live in a time of astounding technological advancements. There are deep sea drones and live streaming virtual reality. It is up to the community to protect and enlarge this technical sphere of information and endorse the corporate sector. Understanding the necessity of the same on the behalf of the BSS fraternity, I would take the opportunity to welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Harshal A. Sanghvi, research scholar of Florida Atlantic University, United States. I also extend my heartfelt gratitude to our Principal, Reverend Father Dr. John P.J., and Vice Principal, Sister Dr. Soni Kuren, for this dynamism, approach, and guidance on every instance. I also extend a word of welcome to the audience connected with us this evening from all corners of India or world. With the emerging dearth of pandemic, we, the people, tried our very best to accommodate in the circle of misogyny, dirt, and gloom. But it's time to stay informed, spread positivity, and be a person of conscience. With immense pride, I cordially invite you all to this virtual platform to mold minds and think alike. Incubation, resilience, and opportunities for technological startups during pandemic is the major concern and the highlight of the discussion on this special observance of the day, National Technology Day. Hope you all will gain a demystified perspective and opinion at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Sneha.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Mr. Harshal Sanghvi to take the stage and express his ideas.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Okay. Sneha
Yes, sir,
and
you're audible.
yes, please just guide me if my screen is not visible, as I would not be able to see all of you. So I'm presenting.
Sir, your screen is visible.
Okay.
Right.
Very good evening to one and all present here, and thank you so much once again, the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, for conducting this one-day international webinar on incubation, resilience, and opportunities for startups during pandemic. I congratulate and I thank Father Principal for such a nice initiative that we all have seen in the starting of the session. And I also thank Vice Principal Ma'am for guiding us through this whole journey in startups and entrepreneurship. To add to this, I would also like to thank Dr. Singh for conducting this webinar, Dr. Meena Mehta and Sneha Sen Gupta for coordinating it such a wonderfully. I was very surprised when I saw emails at late nights, let's say in the midnight at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, by Sneha and Dr. Singh. You know, they are trying to put their efforts, bringing the incubation, resilience, and opportunities for startups in this whole pandemic situation, and motivating all the students to participate on this auspicious day. So, thank you so much, everyone. And I now start my session. So, let us keep this an interactive session. Let us not just be one sided, right? So, you have to speak as well. So, you have to discuss your ideas, you have to discuss your opinions, and you have to discuss your thoughts regarding innovations and incubations. So, ऐसे कितने लोग हैं जिन्होंने ऑलरेडी अपना स्टार्टअप ऑलरेडी है या फिर ऑलरेडी सोच के रखा है कि हमको स्टार्टअप करना है, सो दे कैन डिस्क्राइब their startup in brief. Is there anyone who can just throw a light on what the startup is or what they want to do? I think you can unmute and you can speak. So, we can have a two-way communication. Okay, so let us begin with the very first step, that is journey of startup. So, what exactly journey of startups mean is about failing in whatever you develop. Okay, whatever you develop does not mean you invent. So these are the two different words and they have two different meanings, right? So about failing in whatever you develop, redevelop, invent, and reinvent, right? So what basically, this is just an example to take you to the journey of startups. You all might have heard about the story of
Anyone from the
Thomas Alva
audience,
Edison.
please initiate it.
Yes. If you have, you can speak. So you can speak in Hindi, English, or any of the regional languages as you wish to. Or else you can write down in the chat box as well. So I think we can see later on. So let me describe you a very short story of Thomas Alva Edison. You might be aware about this story. So when Thomas Alva Edison invented bulb, so at the age of 60, when he saw that his factory was burning, he told his child to call his mom, and he wanted to show his wife the burning ashes of the factory, and he told that you have never seen ashes like this in your whole life. So just think about level of positivity, the level of motivation he carried at the age of 60 when he saw his factory burning. The single line what he told was, thank you God for burning all my mistakes, I have came again and I will start. So this is how the motivation lies when you start inventing something, when you start developing something, or else you reinvent or you redevelop. So this was a short story of Thomas Alva Edison. I hope you might all be, in a phase where you start to develop your own product, or start to develop your own services for gaining money, or let's say for having a social startup, maybe helping the nation overcome this pandemic or something like that. So this is a basic, basic definition of what exactly startup means, that you fail in whatever you do and you develop and redevelop, or else you invent and reinvent. Because if you succeed at the very first time, try to think that you have failed in knowing your own self, knowing your abilities. So try to motivate yourself by experimenting different things and by failing in different things, so that you can have much more opportunities at the end. So let us take this a further step ahead, that what exactly startups and incubation is and how to approach them. So first is critical thinking. What exactly critical thinking is, that you find out a problem. Let's say, for example, you see a lot of problem in the society or else nearby you. So you try to think about some problem and you try to find out some solution for that. So this is a basic thinking process of having your own idea into a startup scale. So if you see the image at the bottom, it shows that what is the most important rule, and the other guy says that to break the rules, right? So that's where the startup begins, and that's where the invention and innovation begins. So you have a pre defined set of rules, या फिर आपके कुछ निर्धारित there are parameters which help you to define your own startup, define your own business. But when you break those rules, when you break that chain, and if you try to think something new, so what sort of innovation you can bring to the society, or what sort of innovation you can bring to your product. So that is where the critical thinking process starts place. And if you see at the right hand side bottom, this is a water ATM. You might have seen at railway stations, Swachh Jal Kendra, right? So do you guys think this is an innovation? Of course, yes. This exactly is an innovation. So what happens is that it was a case study, and people found the people who developed this ATM and the dispensing machine found that there are travelers which travels on a daily basis in train, and they have to purchase water bottles and they have to pay a whole lot of money when they travel on a regular basis. So they tried to find out some solution for that this was a social problem, a social cause, and they tried to develop solution. And they developed solution in a way which was innovative. You can get a whole 1 liter of bottle in, let's say, just 1 or 2 rupees. So which was innovative, which was economical, and which addresses the problems of the society. So this is how your journey to the startups and entrepreneurship begins, by looking to the problems of the society and thinking some innovative solutions for that. So the reflection is innovation and development. So you might be facing some sort of regular problems or else regular difficulties in your daily life, and you try to think about those problems and try to overcome it. So this is how the critical thinking takes place. And if I tell you in very brief, it was a case study done in Kenya, that there was a small pond nearby the village, and uh, the uh, the women used to go every morning to pull out water from that well and to bring for the utilities and everything. So it was a case study done, and the government of Kenya then call a bunch of engineers, and they tried to brainstorm to solve the idea. So the solution was, they had a tap in the house, and the water came right at each and everyone's place. But no one was using that tap water. Every woman used to go in the morning to the well and used to take out water. So the whole project, let's say it was $1 billion project, so whole project failed in Kenya. Why? Because there was no social in Kenya there is some sort of orthodox mentality that women are not allowed to step out of their house in much more time, because there are more number of rape cases, and there are more number of social harassments which takes place. So women used to go out once in a day, that is in the morning, to take out water from the step well, and they used to interact with each other, social communication. So there was a lack of social communication, due to which the whole $1 billion project failed. So you have to always think of in a psychological manner as well, that how this will if you develop a product or a service, how that will affect to the society, how they will affect to the psychology of the people, and how they will affect to your innovation and your business idea and your business concepts. So let us see a boost up in startup sector. We already have seen this startups in last 1.5 or maybe 2 years at a very booming stage. This were there before many years. but you have noticed since last few years, the EDX portal, the Audacity, Udemy, DataCamp, and Coursera. So these are the edtech startups which have taken a great spike in just last 1 year during the pandemic. Why? Because the social interaction through online platform, which was already there, the IT companies were using, but now during the pandemic in last 1 year, we all tried to use those platform for interacting in educational forums, for teaching the students in universities and schools, and we tried to utilize this for creating webinars such as we have it today. So connection using the technology has become so much important and so much feasible that you can contact and you can connect to anyone at any place in the world. So the boon, I can say technology is a boon which has arisen since last 1 year in the field of education. And you might all know that Uber Eats was purchased by Zomato, because Zomato had more number of customers than Uber Eats. So this is how the restaurants, the business in the hotel industry, and the business in the hospitality have taken a rise since last few years. So we all were at home, and for the entertainment as well, we used to watch Netflix or else Amazon Prime series and everything. So these are the technical startups, and believe me, the owner of this Netflix and Prime Video, they are not the people of technology, they are the people of psychology. So they try to understand the mind of people. They try to give their best in this pandemic, to entertain the people, to let kids watch some good series along with their parents, and they try to motivate them in the whole pandemic situation. So if you are a startup, if you are an enterprise, you have to be psychologist as well. You have to study the mind of people, you have to study the mind of your customers to make your startups more feasible in the competitive 21st century. So below are a list of many of the startups you might all be aware about: Ola, Zomato, Snapdeal, Flipkart. So these are not the new ones. These are already there, but they tried to connect technology to the startups, and then they tried to have their own business models. So if you know about the Lenskart.com, it is a very innovative startup. Basically, it tries to use artificial intelligence, and it tries to use machine learning modules to detect your face, to have frames on your face, and it shows you how the frames look. Right. So they tried to understand the psychology of people, that people need to look in the mirror before they purchase any frames online. So they tried to use this technology and created a platform where people can sit at their home, try, let's say, n number of frames, and select whatever they like. So this is how the pandemic has created an opportunity for each and everyone to think about some of the startup in whichever field we are. If you are in sociology, if you are in social sciences, if you are in history, or maybe if you are a student of engineering, you can think about something which you can relate to technology, which we will see in further slides, and you can try to have your own startup module based on that. So why startup is important? Because you all know that during the pandemic there are many people who lost their jobs, and there are many, not just in pandemic, but it is the situation of the whole country, that the number of the applicants which are there for the job and the number of jobs which are already available in the market, there is a huge gap between those two. So you always try to be atmanirbhar in this competitive era of 21st century. So these are the few technological startups which have came up in since last or 1.5 or 2 years, which helped the current pandemic situation, and which helped the paramedical staff and doctors. So the first is the M-Fine. M-Fine was basically into telemedicine, and they used to communicate with the doctors and the patients. So it is an online platform. If you see M-Fine startup, it helps doctors and patients to interact in a very good way. So basically, what telemedicine is exactly, if you are facing some trouble, if you are facing, let's say, fever, and you need to visit a doctor, but during the pandemic, it's very not safe to step out of your house. So what you do, you go, download this application, you go online, and you try to chat with a doctor. So you get, if you put your query, you get responses from several doctors who are, who have done their majors in this field, and who are a consultant and an advisor in the medical sciences as well. So you can have the medical prescription, you can have the guidance from the doctors, and you can treat yourself at home only. So you might have seen that during the pandemic, many of the people are trying to avoid going to the hospitals, and they are trying to treat themselves at home. Why? Because of the telemedicine, because of this virtual platform, which has made so convenient that you can have reviews from, let's say, 4 or 5 doctors, and you can take your medications through that. The second is the eye clinic, which we have seen in last 1 year. It is basically a chatbot, and it creates a virtual chat between a patient and the doctor, which is at the back. So you might not be able to know who is a doctor, but you can connect to a doctor online, and you can try to ask your question, your queries, your health issues to a doctor, and the doctor in a specific will try to reply to those answers. So you can have online medications, you can have online therapy, you can have online, paramedical staff who can guide you through the process. And the each and everything, the concept behind telemedicine is using technology and using medical sciences, the biomedical engineering, and try to overcome this pandemic situation and help our own country to regain its prosperity, and to regain the phase in which the country was moving ahead. So these are, the startups in last 1.5 or 2 years you might have seen. And if you also see during the pandemic, using how you can use technology to help the current situation is, if you are from social sciences, or let's say if you are from the arts background, but you can always partner with the people in engineering, right? So you can be more of a psychological side, and the people in engineering would be more of the concept development and the product development side. So the artificial intelligence has made it so convenient for all of us. Though if you see the first picture, there are people moving on the road, and due to artificial intelligence, you can detect that they are following social distancing or not. If you see the picture at the bottom, through artificial intelligence, you can detect whether a person is wearing a mask, and if he's wearing, is it in a proper way, or it is not in a proper way. So it shows you percentage ratios out of that. And all this has become possible due to technology, that is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this helps the current pandemic situation, and helps the country to overcome the norms of social distancing, and the wearing of mask, right? So these are the basic ideas and the concepts how you can use technology to help any social problem. So this is a social problem, of course, and you are trying to use artificial intelligence, the technology over here, and try to overcome those problems. If you see the picture at the right, this is a chest X-ray images. So this is what we are doing over here, and this is, if I tell you in a very brief, you use the artificial intelligence, you use Python programming over here, and if you scan an X-ray image, and if you want to try to detect whether the patient is having a viral fever, pneumonial bacteria, or maybe he's suffering from COVID. So scanning an X-ray will give you output as whether the person is affected from COVID, or he's affected, or he or she is affected from any other viral diseases. So this all have become possible due to the use of technology. So this is not the replacement of a doctor, but this is normally used to assist a doctor in quantifying the results, and helping them at remote places where there are not much paramedical staff, and there are not much radiologists who can be at a same place and treat each and every patient. So these softwares can help the radiologists, and they can assist the physicians to have a more clear view of the X-ray images and to use technology for the betterment of the mankind. So this is how your approach should be using technology during the current pandemic situation, as our topic relies as resilience and the importance of startups and incubation in the current pandemic 19. So what exactly incubation is, let me tell you very briefly. So the incubation center at your university, at your college, helps you have your mentoring. This is a very important stage at when you have any idea, or when you have any sort of thoughts on having your own startup and an enterprise. So mentoring is the most important thing. You need guidance from the people who are already there, who are already pursuing this idea in the industry. Those are called industry experts. You want mentoring from your academic advisors. Those are your professors, or maybe the coordinators of the centers, or maybe your fellow young mates, right? So mentoring is very important, and the incubation center provides you that. The second is the incubation space. हम सबको पता है कि if we start a business, and if we want to take a office, or else let's say a space where we can develop our product or service, it takes a lot of money. But at initial stage, you can approach to any university who has incubation center, and you can incubate yourself over there. So basically this is a shared space between n number of companies. There is a whole big space, and it is divided into subsections. So incubation space is the second most advantage what incubation center gives to you. The third is the industry expert session. When you try to have your startup in the 21st century in a very competitive market, you need some sort of industry expertise on how to launch, or how to sell your product or service based industry into this competitive world, and how you can earn money out of that. So you always need guidance of people who already are there in the industry, and what they want and what the people want. That is the most important thing. So through their experiences, through their knowledge, and through their wisdom, you can develop your startup in collaborating with different industry experts as well. And last is, आप सब सोच रहे होंगे कि सर ये सब तो ओके, बट पैसों का क्या? What about money? हमें कुछ करना है तो we at least need some fund, let's say 5-10,000 at least on a minimum scale, to have our own product or to have our own service. So the funding opportunities are also being provided by the incubation centers. So you can approach the incubation center at your university. You have at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. You can approach them, and you can have your own idea and startup over there, and you can incubate there for developing your own business idea. So let me tell you very briefly what exactly is the whole process of startups and entrepreneurship in the current pandemic situation, and in generalized as well. So first is the idea submission. If you have some idea, या फिर आपके पास कोई एक social problem का solution है, so try to discuss that idea or the social problem to your colleagues. आपके दोस्त है, आपके professors है, या फिर आपके colleagues है, उनसे जाके आइडिया शेयर कीजिए. बिलीव मी, ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर आप अपना आइडिया शेयर करेंगे तो कोई और चुरा लेगा, या फिर कोई उस पे काम करना स्टार्ट कर देगा. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स अपॉन हाउ यू मोटिवेट योरसेल्फ to do much better than people who are already doing. So believe me, if you think of something, if you try to find out some solutions, try to google it out. बहुत सारे लोगों ने ये चीज की होगी, बट द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज आप उसमें नया क्या डेवलप कर सकते हैं, या फिर आप क्या कुछ नया री इन्वेंट कर सकते हैं. सो दिस इज अ वेरी फर्स्ट स्टेज, दैट इज आइडिया सबमिशन. ट्राई टू डेवलप योर ओन बिजनेस मॉडल कैनवास. अगर आप गूगल करेंगे, यू विल come to know कि what is a format of business model canvas. उसमें who are your target customers, who are your target investors, who are your employees, who are your the advisory board. So you try to develop your own paperwork, and you try to develop your own idea, through which you try to approach your coordinators after after the completion of the whole business model canvas. So the second is idea evaluation. ये सब हो जाने के बाद you try to evaluate your idea, or the incubation management looks at a very different perspective. वो आपको ना ही सिर्फ मोटिवेट करेंगे, बट ये भी देखेंगे कि आपका आइडिया मार्केट के अंदर कितना फिजिबल है. इफ यू वांट टू have your idea into this competitive market, they need to evaluate कि क्या क्या चीज improve करने से you get more perspective of earning money. out of your product or out of your service. So second stage is you try to evaluate your idea through the incubation management. And the third stage, and which is very important, is ये सब हो जाने के बाद आप एक चीज का प्रैक्टिस कीजिए, that is giving your startup idea or explaining your startup idea to the other person in just 1 minute. 1 मिनट के अंदर आप अपना आइडिया दोहराइए किसी और को, ताकि यू ट्राई टू डेवलप अ प्रैक्टिस, क्योंकि जब आप एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स या फिर वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट के पास फंड्स लेने जाएंगे, so they have n number of people waiting in a queue to take funds, so they don't have much time. So 1 मिनट के अंदर अगर आप आइडिया रिप्रेजेंट कर पाए या फिर उनको कन्विंस कर पाए, तो believe me, you are in for the fundings, right? So this is the third important stage in startups and entrepreneurship, that you have to develop your pitching skill, your pitching ability to have your startup in this competitive market. After that, the pre-incubation stage. So pre-incubation क्या होता है कि incubation होने से पहला stage, that is आपने ये सब तो कर लिया, बट आपका बिजनेस प्रपोजल क्या होगा, आप पैसा कहाँ से लाओगे, व्हाट वुड बी योर, हु वुड बी योर इन्वेस्टर्स, व्हाट वुड बी योर ओन इन्वेस्टमेंट, या फिर आपका आइडिया कैसे फिजेबल होगा मार्केट के अंदर। ये आपने सर्विस तो बेच दी, आज ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन आप पढ़ाते हो, ऑनलाइन क्लासेस, तो ये आपने सर्विस तो स्टूडेंट्स को बेच दी, बट उसका फीडबैक क्या रहेगा, कैसे आप उसको मॉनिटर करोगे, कौन फैकल्टीज होंगे, कैसे पढ़ाया जाएगा, कौन से टाइम पे पढ़ाया जाएगा, आपके स्टेक होल्डर्स कौन होंगे, वो सब आप डिफाइन करते हो प्री इंक्यूबेशन स्टेज के अंदर। एंड आफ्टर विच कम्स द एक्चुअल इंक्यूबेशन स्टेज, आपका ऑनलाइन इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर या ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन मॉडल स्टार्ट हो गया। सो यू ट्राई टू टेस्ट। जब जियो ने जब सिम कार्ड लॉन्च किया था, दे गिव द जियो सिम कार्ड एवरीवन फॉर फ्री, right? They you got some 4G bandwidth at initial free of cost, and develop your habit to use 4G networks instead of the 3G ones. और यही चीज after a some sort of time, they tried to convert it into a business model, and then they tried to sell their own services. So this is an incubation stage which helps you to test your product or your service into a competitive world, ताकि वहाँ पे जो big leaders है उसको आप कैसे compete करोगे, and what are the ideas you generate for your trainings and the first sales product services. So this is the incubation stage where you actually step into the market and try to sell your services. And ये सब हो जाने के बाद the graduation stage, that is 12 महीना यानी एक साल के बाद many of the startups they fail, or else they back off. एक साल के बाद नहीं जम रहा, नहीं करना है और कुछ करना है, you try to switch on to new ideas and new startups, because at the end you find that you are not earning good out of that, or you are not having a good team to take this idea to a further stage. So believe me, if you fail in one idea, try to implement other. If you fail in other, try to implement third, and try to implement n number of ideas till you succeed. So this is how the graduation the role takes place, and this is how you actually become entrepreneur and a businessman in this competitive era. So this is whole this is a basic framework, and this session is made to just enlighten the different aspects of entrepreneurship, and just enlighten how you can step in into this competitive era and this competitive world. So the Mobile School of Sciences has the incubation policy. If you go on a website, you can find the incubation policy, very innovative, very precise, and very helpful policies they have mentioned over here. You try to contact the coordinators. Let's say you try to contact Dr. Singh. You try to contact the student coordinators of incubation centers, and you try to tell them about your idea, tell them about your future goals, your future aspects, and try to get feedbacks from them. Try to improvise your startup and try to get registered, and start having your business in this competitive era. So try to google it out today itself, the incubation policy at Mobile School of Sciences, and you will be able to see whole material over here, which will guide you on company formation, then how can you have your mentoring assistants, then what would be your startup competition, and you will have lot many networking sessions as well as you have today. So this is how you try, this is I'm trying to give you how to approach the startups and entrepreneurship, because it should come from you. If you want to develop your own business, the idea, the implementation, the spirit, the motivation should come from you. Then and then only someone can help you to establish your business in this era. So
तुला सांगितलेलं ऐका येतं का?
if
तिला
you
विचारलं तर म्हणजे दुसरी लस आली पहिली लस नाही. आज सकाळी पण कोणाचा फोन आलता. अगं टीव्हीवर काय सांगितलं
I think there is
की
some
पहिली
disturbance.
डोस
It
दिलेल्या
is okay.
दुसरी कमी पडायला लागली म्हणून
If you
पहिला
go
डोस
on the
झाल्यास तर
Startup
कमी केली.
India
पहिला आणि
portal, if
दुसऱ्या
you
डोसची वेगवेगळा
try
नाही.
to see this Startup India page, you can find lot many resources which can help you out reaching to the government funds and government policies. So there are many
आता
policies
तुला
such as student startup innovation policy. Uh, you know uh, if you want to utilize funds from the government, if you want to have your own startup funded, you can approach student startup innovation policy Niti Aayog, who can fund you for your startup. So there are two different things in funding. First is something which is non-refundable. आपको कुछ पैसा वापस नहीं देना है. And second is a form of a loan that government gives to you. So if you approach student startup innovation policy, it tries to give you funding in a way that you have to utilize your funds in developing your products and services. You need not to give back to the government, and you need not to give back to the the incubation centers, right? But for that, you have to, of course, maintain your records, your financial models, your expenses, and everything you spend in your startup. So that is something, a boost, a boost startup grant, which gives you a step ahead in designing your product and services. But yes, when you go to angel investors, when you go to capitalists, or else when you go to private investors, you have to have a loan sort of, or else you should have an MOU on the shares of your company. You give it to the investors or something like that. Whatever collaborations you can make, you have to monitor those very closely, and you can utilize the funds provided by them to develop your own product and service based startups. So this is how the funding opportunities arises, and this is how the funding opportunities takes place. So this was just an overview of how you can step it into your market, and how you can utilize the knowledge which is already being delivered since last many years by startup industry experts, by the government authorities, and by the academicians in this era of 21st century. So this was a short description about what you can do. So thank you so much everyone for listening it to me, but I wanted to keep this more interactive, so I have made my presentation very short. So I think we can now stop this presentation, and we can discuss about your ideas, and let us see how we together can implement and help you in utilizing your ideas onto an business scale, or onto an incubation scale. So thank you so much once again, and I'm open for the questions, and we can discuss it now. So uh, I think I was audible during the whole session.
Yes, sir, definitely. It was really an insightful session. Here, I would like to introduce and mention about my one of the most senior, most faculty, and my colleague, Dr. Smita Pillai, who is heading the incubation center, and she has taken great initiatives to give a shape to that center. Okay, over to you, Dr. Smita. Am I audible, ma'am? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
thank you, Lana ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. It was a great, wonderful session. I was listening through YouTube, and later on, Nana ma'am said, "No, you have to join through the Google Meet." So I joined now, but I was listening to you
Okay,
through our Google Meet, YouTube link. So we have
great.
started this incubation center in 2019, August 2019. Unfortunately,
Okay,
after 6 months of that, this pandemic situation has started. But
okay,
I must say, it might be a fortunate this one for our students who are reflecting on their ideas. Many students came forward with their ideas, and as you mentioned, sir, we are not entering into the funding part because it
okay,
is restricted by our governing body. We cannot enter into that funding one.
Okay.
So
Right.
we are creating a great network around, means in India as well as abroad, and through those network we are helping the students in ideation, and finally helping them in refining their ideas. So
Right.
we have an expert in this one, a social entrepreneur joined recently with our incubation center. He would be looking after the students, those who are coming out with the ideas. His name is Mr. Sandeep Meheto. Sandeep sir, I hope you are there. He also joined for the session. Sandeep sir, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So Sandeep sir is taking care of the students. Recently, we had 1 minute idea presentation, and I must say that seeing the enthusiasm of the students, we wondered, like, students were admitted in the hospital. From there also, they presented their idea. And Sandeep sir is doing a wonderful job by coordinating with all those students, those who are into this ideation. And on 8th of January, we have onboarded 7 students to our incubation, and we are taking care of their further, we're taking them to the next level. So the beauty of this one is that many students identified that during this pandemic time, because they couldn't survive, they thought of withdrawing from this idea. That is also one of our success, we must say. They came to know that it is not their cup of tea. They cannot take any challenges. And but really, like, sir, funding is one of the major issue for our students as well. Their parents don't support. They usually say,
Right.
you are here to do your graduation, not for setting up of any business. If your
I can
college is
understand.
giving any money, you go ahead. Otherwise, we won't invest any money into your business.
Right. 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 Correct, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I would just
So
like to say that if you are seeking for startup grants, if you are seeking for startup fundings, you can directly go to Startup India website and you can register your startup there. You can put up your idea and you get funds from the government directly. After having a business speech and everything, so you need not to wait for anyone, but I think you each and every student in collaboration with your university can approach to Startup India projects.
sir, we did last time
Right.
in February 2020. There was a idea 2020 challenge, and we participated in that. And five of
Okay.
our ideas were selected by them. But
Okay.
till now they are not proceeded with this funding and all, because they
Right.
were telling
Right.
that they have fund issues. So
Okay.
the students every now and then they contact us, ma'am, kya ho gaya
Right.
funding ka? So we don't have
Right.
any
Right. I can
answer
understand.
to that. If you have any good connection with any of these agencies who usually help the incubation centers, kindly
Right.
help us, sir. Kindly help us.
Definitely. Definitely, ma'am. I will further coordinate after this webinar with you and Dr. Naina Singh as well, regarding how you can register your university for the SSIP grants and everything. So I'll help you out with that. No
Okay.
problem.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
It was
much,
a
Dr.
great session.
Smita,
Great
ma'am.
session, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I try to keep it more generalized and informative, so that students can correlate to what they study and what they see in social life, and they can have their own startups. Because our theme was pandemic, so I tried to go step it into this biomedical engineering and try to look into the ideas that students can see. So believe me, I think most of the entrepreneurs who start up their business and who have their own ideas are not from the fields they have already studied, but are the psychologists and very good, uh, you know, creative thinkers who develop these ideas. So I think uh, uh, field or the discipline should not be a confined issue for anyone to start up their business. So thank you so much, ma'am, once again. Any questions? I am open to answer the questions. I think there are some questions in the chat box. Maybe students are writing. I just read one question. Nana ma'am, if you permit, can I answer to this
Yeah,
question? One of the
sure,
student
sure,
has,
sure.
I think
If you
I'll,
want, we can read it out directly also, sir, or
okay, that would be
you can
really
take
great.
the initiative.
I
Okay,
think
sure.
one of the participants, Sangeeta has written
So,
something.
Sangeeta ma'am is my colleague, and she's assisting us to get pull the
Okay,
questions from the YouTube even.
okay,
Shall
okay. This is YouTube live. Okay.
yeah, shall we read out the questions?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
you are directly answering? Okay, then. Sneha, please do the needful.
Yes, ma'am. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Abdul Qayyum is asking that I want to start a new startup, but I
Hmm.
cannot manage to retrieve the funds, basically the capital. So, how should I proceed on?
First of all, we need to understand what your startup is exactly. And if I tell you in a very generalized way, you can start up with the crowdfunding, which we call, as you can tell your family, you can tell your friends to, give some sort of money to you for your own startup, because this is uh, a very basic step which each and every entrepreneur goes through when they have a small idea and when they have to innovate their own startup. So I think you try to go with crowdfunding as of now, and later on when you get the funding opportunities through the university or through the government, you can pitch to them. So this is a generalized answer. I hope I would be able to address your question, but again, I need to understand your startup. Then and then only I can guide you further on how to raise funds for your startup. So that is it.
Thank you, sir. The next question is
Right.
from Mr. Suresh Babu. He's
Right.
asking that, sir, we are having a rural background in college. How to
Okay.
start the startup and how to generate the money? That's the
Okay.
same question, sir.
So basically, rural background does not confine you to have your startup, first thing, and second thing is, if you are thinking about the funds, you can have an MOU with the university nearby you, from your college or maybe your school, if you are from school, and you can have a joint MOU with the incubation centers. For example, if your region is not having the startup grants, you try to go out of your region and try to approach the university who has the incubation center and who can fund the students in your areas, right? So you can have a joint MOU with them and you can proceed ahead with those MOUs.
So the next question is from Darshan Prajapati. He's asking that in startup there is major chances of loss. So how can we recover and recuperate from the same, and especially in due course of the pandemic?
Right. So to be very precise, if you use credit card, you have to keep yourself in a way that you pay off all your bills and expenses. So this is something like credit card only. If you use funds, if you use money which has been allotted to you from startups, if you cannot repay from what you are developing or what you are trying to give it to the people, try to repay from any other sources. For example, if you are having a social startup, let's say if you want to start an NGO, right? So you cannot initially pay the expenses because you are not earning. But if you have skills such as you have a good communication skill, try to give webinars like me, try to earn money from that. I'm not saying earning money from the webinars, but I'm trying to address your question, that if you have good amount of any other artistic skills, you try to use those skills and try to repay those loans or try to repay those finance what you have been offered in a very initial stage. And when once you prove your startup, once you come out of that stage, you will always try to sell your product and services, and you will try to repay your bills. So that is how I can generalize my answer.
So next question is from Mr. Palash Khanna. He is asking that there are already very successful startups like Zomato and Swiggy, and they have actually excelled till now. So what is your idea of a new startup? Basically, how will you suggest in which field, to be precise?
Okay. So you might have heard about Uber Eats, you have heard about Swiggy, Zomato and everything, right? So this basically these are the startups which are already there in the market. But if you have some innovative idea, let's say in USA there is a store called Walmart. That is, you can tell it as a generalized store where you get each and every basic necessities for your home. So if you try to connect the general markets nearby you, and if you try to develop an application wherein a people can sit at their place and they can order it online, I think you are very good to go with those startups. If you don't step it into the market of Swiggy, Zomato, or else if you have a restaurant and if you want to have your own application, you can always compete by giving competitive offers, or you can always compete by creating various good poster designs, and you can always collaborate with Zomato and Swiggy and can offer discounts. So this is how the first stage and a very first step towards entrepreneurship is: try to network yourself with as many people as you can, and try to collaborate with the competitors in this market, and try to learn from them. Then and then only you would be able to survive and give the opportunities to your people to stay in this competitive world.
Excuse me, Sandeep sir. Can you hear me? You can directly
Yeah, yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Okay, sure.
So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Naina ma'am and Harsha sir. It was such a pleasure to
Yes,
listen to you. I went back to my college days, and then, as you
thank you so
correctly
much.
mentioned out, that you made it so simple and easy also to understand everything. There are two things, Harsha sir. Actually, I don't know whether it's not in question. In general, I wanted to discuss
Okay,
or wanted to have your views on that, because I directly
okay,
worked with incubation of BSS under the supervision of Smita ma'am. So
okay,
the one thing is, Harshal sir, that while I used to study social entrepreneurship as a course in Tata Institute when I was a student. So
okay.
what used to happen is the funding wala part and the money wala part, which is almost close to 80% of the questions, no, which we have
Okay,
taken up. So, like, I
right.
think that was a part which was never asked, because that
Okay,
was used to be a part of a process, and
right.
the venture used to be broken into pieces. Like, first it has to be a
Okay.
prototype, or first it has to
Hmm.
be a pilot, and based upon
Right.
that, and the pilot, many times it does not require any kind of money. It just requires your time and effort. And once you are
Right.
able to achieve something or develop a prototype out of pilot, many times you don't even need any kind of funding, and automatically you have so much of support around, rather than
Right.
finding it externally. It becomes the internal
Mhm.
part of the venture actually. So,
Right.
what is your take on that? Like, to take finance or the support as an external thing or a separate thing, or it should be a process in itself, or it should be a discovery in itself, basically.
Basically, Sandeep sir, thank you so much for elaborating this point. And what I see as an entrepreneur is, um, if you start your own enterprise, if you start your own if you have your own startup, I think each and every founder and each and every co-member expect financial needs. They always expect financial to pay off their financial liabilities out of their startup. At least they can pay off their bills, not the salary. So I think everyone needs to think about the finance, and everyone needs finance for developing or grooming their own self. If you want to train yourself, if you want to attend some courses online, at least you need some initial finance for that. Then and then only you can step into this competitive world when you can do business, right? So I think my take on this is funding is an essential part, and that I think that cannot be avoided if you see the whole startup process. So this is the most important part. If you do each and everything, but if you don't have enough money to develop your product and services, your experiences and your hard work goes into vain. So I think my take on this is, I think we all should collaborate with the centers nearby if we are facing issues with the funding, and always we can approach the government for that. We can also approach the private equities and the private companies in the surrounding areas. Let's say if you specifically see in Bhopal, you can approach some private companies who can fund the young entrepreneurs, so they can have some sort of commitment that after so and so years they will work for them. But yes, they can fund the startups, and they can have a joint MOU and a collaboration with the university for this, so that approaching government and taking funds would not take a much longer time, and students get funded out of that. So I think we all should need to think of this very crucial and the most important issue, because after all everyone looks after money. That is a
Yeah,
bitter truth.
sorry,
And
I just wanted to
right,
add one thing to it. So one is
right,
like I am not against any kind of funding or financial support, definitely.
right,
But what I'm
right, right,
saying is that
definitely.
as you have mentioned out that a person need to reach out to certain agencies for any kind of fund.
Right,
So
right,
that reaching out has to be a very confident thing. So, for
right,
example, that
exactly.
might be that incubation comes in and then they start introducing to the financial agencies. The other
Right.
way around can be you develop the
Mm,
student, and the student
right,
themselves feels that which are the agencies and which are the kind of funding they wanted to have, rather than
right,
directly putting them across that these are the funding and these are the sources available. So actually,
right. So
like that, yeah,
mhm. Right. You correctly mentioned that funding. You are not against this idea, but yes, of course, we look into this important perspective and a concept. But yes, there is where the role of the incubation center comes in to groom students to develop their business pitch, as I already mentioned in my presentation, to have
yeah,
practices in the networking sessions. And as Dr. Naina Singh, we had a conversation, and she correctly told that we motivate students to talk directly and approach directly to the professionals, to have the sessions over here
yeah,
at the incubation centers. So
yeah,
Sneha contacted me through LinkedIn, and that's how we got connected. So this is the grooming what you already are giving to the students, and this is
yeah.
how the students are already being trained at your institute, or else you can say at any of the institutes. So expanding this networking into a business opportunity makes a lot of difference in having each and every aspects of startups and entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, sir, for raising this wonderful. I was thinking about to discuss this, and you raised this point. So I think we can collaborate further ahead with the grooming sessions. Let's say resume building, CV writing, business pitch, how to write your own business pitch, how to develop your own business model canvas, with the collaboration of all the faculty members over here. And this is how we can make a step ahead, grooming the students to have their own confidence to pitch to the investors. So thank you so
Yeah, thank
much,
you
sir.
so much, Harshit sir, for bringing this up. I will be happy to collaborate, and thank you so much, Nana ma'am, for conducting this. I think this has become such a great opportunity for us. Just one more thing, last, Harshit sir. I
Yes,
know
sir.
that I'm taking a lot of time. There's one thing, actually, Harshit sir, also your take on like when I have spoken to the students of BSS and most of the
Okay.
alumni, I was so
Mhm.
surprised to see when there was no incubation center in BSS.
Right,
Many of them are running their enterprises, and I've spoken to
right,
them in person. So the interesting
right.
part was the incubation was
Mhm.
already there in form of there were a lot of extracurricular activities happening, lot of teachers
Right.
listening to their ideas, lot of
Mm,
teachers encouraging them to speak about their ideas in the classroom itself. So I think,
mm.
what is your take on having a separate incubation or emphasizing more it into a form of a culture? Because I was very surprised to see students that they shared that, for example, there was one girl who is into a makeup business. She started
Okay.
because in one cultural festival, one teacher encouraged her to do her makeup, and right
Okay.
now she is doing fantastic, and that has
Okay.
given her a lot of confidence actually. So, what is your
Right.
take
Right.
on that? To see incubation as a culture or incubation as a setup separately?
Um, if I tell you very briefly about these two aspects, I see these aspects on both the sides. First is the first and foremost is entrepreneurship. The startups and incubation should be a culture. If it is not necessary that you should have registration from the government, or else you should have registration from any of the higher authorities, but at least you can have student clubs, you can have this sort of networking sessions, you can groom students. So this is a type of a culture what BSSS is trying to build up, and this will impact the young entrepreneurs and young startups to at least think of having their startups when they seek the job opportunities after they graduate. So I think a culture as a whole is much more important than having a defined setup. If I tell you very frankly, but yes, on the counterpart, if you have already developed a culture, if you are already into that process, at least you need some sort of registration, some sort of affiliation from the university and from the government, so that you can try to get funds from them, and you can try to help the students for the incubation space, and for the mentoring, for the networking sessions, for anything whatever they need. So I think I see this more on a side of being a culture than being a registered organization or registered this sort of incubation cell. But I think developing a culture would lead you to at some stage have this whole process. So both the points I go at 50-50 percentage. So that is how I think. The most important thing is we all should develop a culture. That is the most important thing. At least we try to network with the people, we try to know about their ideas, their the aspirations they have, and we try to learn from the experiences. So the culture helps you to gain more than anything else. That is what I can understand.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. Thank you, Harshal sir. Students or the participants can raise their queries in Hindi also.
Yes, of course.
Sangeeta ma'am, yeah. Thank you, sir. Sangeeta ma'am, would you like to raise the questions directly?
All the questions are taken from YouTube and I pasted in Google. So all the questions, queries are resolved. Uh, yes.
Okay.
Any of the participant want to question directly to Harshal sir? You are welcome.
Sir, I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, Rashmi ji.
Sir, good evening. Actually, my query is, can we do job and business simultaneously? Means, what is your opinion about it?
If I tell you very frankly, yes, of course, you can do job and your startup simultaneously, but you should be working at some private agency, a private a private sector, or else any of the company which is not confined and which have no binded rules that you cannot start your own business. If you are a civil servant, if you are a government employee, of course, you cannot have the startup in your name, but of course, you can collaborate with people, and you can have the startups. So I think I'll elaborate about this point much more in person than speaking in a webinar. So I'll guide you with that, and I think you can go ahead with this.
Thank you, sir.
Harshit sir, you can raise your
Good
question
evening, sir.
directly.
Yes.
Good evening,
Yes. Good
sir.
evening. Yes.
I am Dr. V. Suresh Babu from Madurai,
Namaskar, sir.
Tamil Nadu.
Yes, I have read your
Okay,
message.
sir.
Yes, please, sir.
Okay, sir. Already I asked you one question. Asking another
Right, sir.
question. Any
Right.
funding agency in India for startup the course? Any funding
Uh,
agencies available in India?
you can contact Niti Aayog. You can also contact Student Startup Innovation Policy. So these are the two organizations which fund for the startup incubation and startup projects. So you can go online. You can also search Startup India page, and you can apply through those mediums to get the your institution, or else your or any of the private sectors affiliated and funded from the government. So you can approach these two organizations. You can also approach UGC. UGC also supports ideas at certain levels, but if you want to go on a very a professional scale, or a much more entrepreneurship scale, you can contact Niti Aayog, and you can contact SSI.
Good evening, sir.
Okay,
I
sir.
am
Thank
Harshit.
you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I
Thank
have
you,
a
sir.
question, sir. So,
Yes, Harshal.
from where we can get means huge funding? Like if someone wants rupees 40 lakh for
Okay.
his startup, and if we talk
Okay.
about mudra loans, I think it
Okay.
is maximum of rupees 10 lakh that
Right.
they can give. So, sir, from where
Right.
we
Right.
can get such huge funding?
So if you are targeting fundings above and more than 40 lakhs, I think you need to go with the angel investors. You need to go with a venture capitalist, or you go to private, any of the private equities which tries to fund for your ideas, and you can have a joint MOU and collaboration with them. I think government agencies, government organizations give you a initial support to step up into a market where you can develop your own startup and services. But if you want, above the average, I think you can approach the private sectors. They are ready to fund, and they are ready to invest in your idea. You can, search out the competitions which are available online. You can participate online in different
Okay.
startup initiatives, and you can have your business pitch over there, and the investors are already keeping your track, and they will contact you if they would be interested in your project. I think you
Okay.
can approach in that way.
And so, what is the maximum funding that we get from government?
Sky is the limit. You cannot expect anything. I'll I'll write down to you in person through an email regarding
Sure,
the
sir.
funding.
Sure,
Okay.
sir. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are. Yes, ma'am. You are
हाँ,
audible.
सर एक एक प्रश्न हमारा यूट्यूब पे आया है
जी.
अब्दुल जी का। वो कह रहे हैं कि
जी.
उन्होंने 2 दिन पहले बैंक में विजिट किया था मुद्रा लोन हेतु। तो
Right.
कुछ बिज़नेस स्टार्ट करना चाहते थे लेकिन लॉकडाउन का बहाना कर लोन देने से इनकार कर दिया। सर, व्हाट वुड यू लाइक
Right.
टू से ऑन दिस?
I would rather not comment on this publicly, but yes, we all can understand due to the current situation. Maybe they much have, they have much more responsibilities to fulfill, and I think you can approach after a certain period of time. They will definitely help you get the mudra loans and fundings. Maybe due to the pandemic situation, they are not extending themselves. Onto a very big scale, but at least you can try after some time. They will help you out, I'm sure. You can also approach
Thank you.
for the other banks. You can also approach the private organizations for the funding as well. So you can go ahead with that if it is much more important to fund your startup at this stage.
Thank you, sir. Any
Right.
further queries from sir directly?
Sir, I want to ask you one
Yes,
query.
sir.
So, what implications did COVID have on startups? Because we are seeing a lot of.
I think you are mute. You have to unmute yourself. Sir, you are mute. You can unmute yourself and then have a question.
Students, those who are interested for starting about the business or startups may contact to college.
Yes, I have already mentioned about BSS's college, and you can always contact if you have any idea, if you have any startup plans. You can contact Dr. Naina Singh, and I think she is the best person to help you out with this.
Sir, actually, Dr. Smita Pillai is the best person because she is heading that
Of course, yes.
center
Of course,
and
yes.
she has really given the shape to it.
Right. Definitely. So you can
Equally,
contact the
I can,
coordinators.
yeah,
Good
sure,
evening,
sure,
Nana
sure.
ma'am. I want to ask one question.
Sure, Priya ma'am, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. First of
Good
all, I
evening.
would like to thank you. I'd like to say a big thank you for such an interesting session. Sir, I
Thank you,
am an
ma'am.
assistant professor of public policy and international affairs. And being a
Okay.
professor, can you just guide me what type of startup I can start in the field of public policy?
One of the startups which we were consulting in Gujarat was a legal advisor. It was a law firm, and we created a software-based technology for them. If you, let's say, if you want to apply for some notary, or else if you want to apply for some government paperworks, right? So you go to that software, you try to upload your documents online, you try to consult the lawyers online, and that's it. This is a whole online process, and when they give you an appointment, you can book a slot and you can visit the lawyer for the official proceedings. So I think you can use technology to expand your horizons, making public policy and governance more strong. And I think you can also collaborate with, let's say, 10 to 15 best lawyers in your city or in your state, and you can have your own consultation firm as well. So this
Okay,
is
sir, but
how you
actually,
can approach.
basically, I am not from the law background. I am from the public administration background, and public
Okay,
administration and public policy, it has got a close tie-up. So, like,
right.
if you can further guide me up in this particular path.
I think I first of all I need to understand that what sort of startup you wish to have. So I
Okay,
think what you can do is you can write down to me on an email and we can discuss over there. I
sure,
think
sir.
that would be more better option.
I'll do that. Thank you so much, sir,
Thank you, ma'am.
and thank you, Nana ma'am, for the wonderful session.
You're welcome. People can directly connect with the BSS website, or you can channelize through me, any of the sources. Or even you can get connected with Harshal sir also, sir, if you won't mind. No, so
Yes,
that
yes,
we
no problem.
can
Yes, they
get the
can write down
insight.
to me on an email. Yes.
Sure, sure, sure. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Any more questions, Neha?
No, ma'am.
If not, then we can wind up with the session.
Okay, ma'am. Gratitude bestows reverence, allowing us to encounter everyday epiphanies, those transcendent moments of awe that change forever how we experience life and the world, as it is the ultimate state of receivership. It's my esteemed honor to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the BSSS fraternity to our honorable speaker, Mr. Herschel Sangvi, for enlightening us on the parameters associated to the technological industry. With his vast ocean of knowledge on the mentioned fields, he delivered the session with all grace and vigilance. I am also indebted to him for sharing his perspective on the incubation aid policies and promotion of private startup ideas that will shape the economic sphere of the country as a whole. His reportage of analyzing the idea of startup illuminated us in a great big way. I also express my sincere thanks to our respected principal, Reverend Father Dr. John P.J., for permitting the department to execute this session. This event won't have been a fruitful one without the support of our technical team, who ensured negligible discrepancies. Last but not the least, I am immensely gratified to our audience who joined us this evening. Stay safe. Thank you.